What's up, squad? It's your boy, the Fitness Papi, back with another foam roll edition here. We're gonna attack this upper half today, guys. Last time we addressed the lower body and some of those hot spots. Today we're gonna address some of those issues for that upper body. So first and foremost, the most basic use with the foam roll and the one that is a go-to by every person that's ever used the foam roller is to simply put it down on the ground, sit up on it, and then roll up and down your back. I'm gonna go ahead and demonstrate that for you, show you that. That's fine for some exploratory kind of figuring out where some of those hot spots are. But again, just simply rolling up and down your back is not really gonna address the adhesions and those knots that the foam roller is really meant to focus on. So again, as promised, this is what we all do when we get done with class. We take that baby, we put it right down here on the floor, we sit onto it, we prop our hips up, and we take this roll, we roll it up, we roll it back. If you have long hair, you pull it up so it doesn't roll underneath that foam roller. Feels really good. It crackles a little bit. Little pops in your spine, up and down, feeling pretty good. But then that's typically where we stop. We roll it out, and we're like, oh, foam roller, check, done, great. 10 seconds, I'm off. So again, really good to kind of help loosen up those vertebrae and kind of get some things maybe back in alignment from maybe just the usage of lifting weights and rotating and doing different stuff of daily activity. But really what we want to focus on, guys, is freeing up our bodies. So we're going to utilize this foam roller. Some of you guys have done these moves with me before in class. Some of you haven't. But if you haven't, this is one of my favorite ones to start with. So again, that roll, to prep the spine is completely fine. But what we're going to focus on today is getting that foam roller tucked in right against the base of that spine. Feet are flat on the floor. Okay, I'm gonna pinch it kind of with my lower back. My arms are gonna cross over my chest, and I'm gonna gently work over all the way until the back of my head can touch the floor. You'll notice in my breath and my voice changes dramatically from when I'm going over and then when I'm going back. That's because it's painful as I go back, and you may not have the range of motion to be able to go all the way back, but if you can, the idea is to get your head on the floor but also keep your butt on the floor as you're doing this. You wanna take 5 of these, and whether it's active, where you just touch and you come right back up, or you have enough resilience and patience to where you get over and you wanna pause and maybe count to like 5 or 10 seconds, totally fine. Bring it right back up. And then what we're gonna do is just simply move that baby up, just about 1 vertebrae. So again, each time we move it up, you're gonna find a little bit more relief because typically that lower back is the tightest. So I just moved it up a little bit. Again, my butt and my hips stay on the floor. That's a non-negotiable. I'm back over. Touch the back of that head and then bring it right back up. I'm using my abdominals, almost like a sit-up and like a crunch. So I'm extending through my abdominals, stretching them out, touching, and then crunching it back forward, kind of rounding out that lower back, lengthening out that lower back. Again, about 3 to 5 per vertebrae or per spot is beneficial. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a couple more here. Hopefully you're doing it with me here at home. And again, if you're having trouble getting your head to the floor, don't worry about that, but don't get your head to the floor by lifting up your hips because you're basically just negating everything we're trying to do. Most importantly, keep your butt down on the floor and go back to the range of motion you have. Once you've done that, simply bring it up again. This is gonna be my 3rd spot. Some people's middle back, also known as a thoracic spine, is a little bit tighter. So again, maybe this one on you is a little bit harder than that lower back. Typically, just the vast majority of the population, that lower back is the hardest one. All the way over and back. If you'd like to create a longer lever, you can certainly use your arms. Anytime we use our arms, we create a longer lever for the core, lengthen out the body. Hands can be behind the head. They can be out. They can be over your chest, whatever you want to do. But you're actively going over and back, much like I showed you when we were pumping the toe, pushing the toe, doing our leg kicks, everything that we were doing with our lower limbs, we're basically getting the same thing, extension and flexion in our spine. Over and back, and then we'll take another spot. maybe up a little bit higher. Basically, you want to do this guy up to about as high as what would be equal with your armpits, also known to your lats, and that'll give us our next transition point. So this will be my last point to where I'm going over and back. Again, it may only feel on this one like my head is moving. That's okay. You're still getting some mobility in that spine as long as you're keeping your butt and your hips down on the floor. You're reaching your head back, and you're coming all the way up. Reaching that head back and coming up. I'm going to do one more of these just to loosen it up. And perfect. Okay, so again, I mentioned that's equal then with my armpits, which puts me in a good spot to start to attack into my lats. So a lot of times, very commonly, we get tight in our shoulder, or maybe we have some clicking or a shoulder issue or some shoulder pain. Again, a lot of that is very similar to what I described when we were talking about the lower limb and the knee. The outside is pulling, the inside is pulling, the hamstring's pulling, the quad is pulling. It's like a game of tug of war for the knee. Same exact thing is happening with the shoulder. We have the pec pulling, we have the lat pulling, we have the rhomboids pulling, and then we have your neck pulling, your cervical spine. So we have a lot going on. Everything's pulling on your shoulder, okay? So again, with everything pulling on your shoulder, if one thing is tighter than the other, you're gonna feel a pull or a strain. So what we wanna do is get everything loose to where that shoulder can move in there nice and freely. So the best way to do that is from in this position I just was at, I'm going to rotate over and get this baby again in on the meat of what would be my armpit or my lat, okay? From here, this is very similar to what I did with the lower body. I'm doing a cross foam rolling, cross fiber. I'm rolling forward, and then I'm rolling back and open. So my chest is facing the floor, chest is facing the ceiling, and then I'm rolling in, rolling across that lat, back and forth. Again, you can see just in the grimace on my face, it is pretty painful. So I'm gonna come in and across. If you find that hot spot, just hold it. Again, if you do that, you can take that arm just off the floor, put it back on the floor, taking it up. Again, much like how we did when we were moving that leg, raising it up, setting it back down, raising it up, setting it back down. Maybe you cross fiber again. Ooh, maybe you find another hot spot back a little bit at that 45, bringing that arm up and setting it back down. Again, just working that arm through a range of motion. You may feel some click, you may feel some grinding. Okay, some pain is to be expected here. Now, if it's a sharp shooting pain, you want to get off that spot and avoid it. But if it's like pushing on a bruise, it's like a dull pain, you can stay right there in on it. And typically in about 30 to 45 seconds, 70% of that pain will start to dissipate because you'll start to break up that adhesion a little bit. So again, back and forth, cross-bodying, and then finding those hot spots, and then taking that arm through a range of motion. And there's not any really right or wrong as far as range of motion. Be playful with that arm, take it back, take it up to your ear. You can even work it out to the front. Again, think about all the ways the arm can move. That's what the lat is doing. The lat is stabilizing that through all those positions. So then, I'm gonna roll it up maybe a little bit deeper in my armpit there, okay? And then again, just kind of like how I moved up my calf or even my quad or my IT band or my inner thigh, okay, I'm moving it up a little bit. Again, when I first get there, I cross body, I try to check in and see where I might have those tension points. Ooh, right there's one for me. So I'm just gonna sit here and breathe it. It's too painful for me to move my arm. So again, you can just kind of see my lower half as my knees are stacked on top of each other. I'm just in there. I'm breathing through it. I'm feeling this pain start kind of in my armpit, but kind of radiate through my neck and my trap, which is causing a release, which is telling me that I have some tightness and some tug of war going on in this lat between my neck and my armpit here. So I'm trying to get that to release, loosen up a little bit. I can move off of there, roll back a little bit. Again, once I come back to it, I'm just kind of clicking over it. It's like kunk, 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 kunk. It's like going over a speed bump, I often describe it. When you feel those really tight, ropey, knotty spots in there, you hold it, try to get right on it. Again, maybe this time I'm gonna move my arm a little bit if I can. It's pretty painful, but I know the benefits will follow if I can just kind of grit through it and kind of move it around. Up and down and around. Again, rotating your palm down, maybe palm open, bringing it up, bringing it across, bringing it back down. Again, I'm just exploring, kind of figuring out where in there it's really tight. It's kind of locked up on me, kind of moving things around, flipping your hand over, down, and then again. And then again, maybe finding another spot. Maybe it's lower than I started. maybe it's up. One thing you do want to avoid is not foam rolling right on your ribs, okay? On your ribs, it's basically just your intercostals, the small little musculatures inside your rib cage. There's not a lot of meat on top of your ribs, so there's really nothing you can loosen up there. You can get in there, but again, you don't want to be pressing right on a bone, just like you don't want to be right on a joint. So if you have a little bit more meat, maybe on the back side here, that's great. You can kind of roll in on that again, stay towards the back. But what you don't want to do is roll right on top of like your sternum or get right in there on those ribs, okay? You really want to give it a little room to make sure that there's some muscle in there or some kind of fascia that we're going to start to loosen up in here. Okay, so I'm back and forth. Again, I'll find that hot spot. I can rest my head down here, use a little bit of my head for added pushing down, a little bit more pressure. Again, just breathing in here. These are much like your calves. You won't even know they're sore until you start rolling them, and then you're gonna be like, holy smokes, I'm pretty tight in here. But the cool thing about this is that it's a very noticeable difference. As soon as you get off of the foam roller, you can check that shoulder mobility and that range of motion, and you will see an increased range of motion immediately, okay, just by loosening things up. So again, about 3 spots, whether, again, it's start low or work up towards the top of your armpit or back down, however you want to do that. Again, cross-bodying, find that hot spot, and then moving that up, but don't forget to rotate internally, externally, palm down, palm open, high, across your body, up, rest your head, lots of different options there, okay? As we move out of one side, I'm gonna change just so I can get you to the other side, we can get evened out. So again, this is how we were finishing out. So again, if we were concluding rolling to where we were tipping over and kind of tipping back, I've set myself up in a good position here. So again, I'm just gonna roll in on it, across. Again, make sure you're not on those ribs, okay? Make sure there's at least some meat in there that we're starting to roll on. You'll feel a difference if you just happen to do roll on top of your ribs. Not gonna break your ribs by any chance. There's just no point of doing that, okay? So we wanna find that meaty area in there. Start to roll in on it. Again, that's a hot spot for me right there. So I'm gonna pause and just kind of breathe through. Again, you can notice here my legs are a little longer, and that's fine too. They don't necessarily have to be stacked. How my limbs are on my lower half does not dictate what's happening upstairs. So again, I just find a hot spot, move around on it. When I feel like I can get there and I can kind of move my arm, I'm gonna move my arm around. Again, forward and back, a little internal, a little external rotation, a lot of breathing, maybe some cuss words, you know, whatever feels good. But again, this is not supposed to be comfortable. A lot of times I will start sweating doing this, just like I'm doing a workout, because again, my central nervous system is going, what in the hell are you doing? This hurts, okay? But that's good, okay? We want to get in there. We're rolling back and forth, nice and easy. Again, once you've had your fill in one spot, again, it's a small little quarter turn, get up in there. My lats are very sore. I did pull-ups just the other day. So again, that's the dominant motion. The dominant muscle in a pull-up is your lat. So I'm just holding there. You may start to get some jump in those muscles too. Again, that's all right. You may start to feel like your heartbeat is like in the muscle, and that's okay. That's just getting some blood flow to start to flow through there as we kind of pinch and squeeze and hold those adhesions. The idea is I'm pinching that adhesion, and then I'm moving through that range of motion to help loosen that adhesion up. Again, at first you may not be able to move it very far. Okay, no big deal. Just start to give me what you can. Again, it will start to dissipate. That pain will start to go away. And if it doesn't today, it will the next time you do this, and then the next time and the next time, it will eventually get better. This is something you do with a process. It's not a one time and done kind of deal. Foam rolling is a daily thing, a weekly thing, a lifelong thing. So make it part of your regimen. Again, not just frivolously rolling back and forth, finding those hot spots, cross fibering where I'm rolling my chest down, then I'm rolling it back. Find that hot spot again right there, and I'm raising it up and down. Oh man, back and forth. You can see I'm just kind of really freelancing my arm here, trying to create some space. Again, there's no right or wrong. I want to stress that over and over, that you really can't do anything wrong on the foam roller here. So just continuously breathe, kind of moving things around, sweep that arm. And then I'm going to find my third and final spot, which is going to be absolute misery for me, which is going to be deep in that armpit. Again, this is kind of like on the back of this arm where the tricep kind of inserts right up in there, the lat, everything meets. So right up in the base of that armpit, you're going to get a lot of pain. A lot of breathing is going to be needed here. But again, very, very beneficial to your mobility, your flexibility, and just your overall functioning as your body starts to create that space and loosen up. Your body will always choose the path of least resistance. So your body will undoubtedly take the shortcut, take the easy route, but we want to force your body into operating correctly. Because if one part of your body is locked up and not moving, another part of your body will start to overcompensate for that, which could be my neck, could be my shoulder blade, and then I'll start to get overuse in the area and create a pain and overuse, and that's how we get injury. So this is why we want to do this for injury prevention. Even before there's an injury, we want to do this to make sure we don't get an injury. So again, I'm just going forward and back. Again, small range of motion. Find that hot spot, moving that arm around, forward, back, as high as I can, in front of my body. It can kind of even be on the back of that shoulder. That's totally fine as well. Internal, external rotation, moving that hand around, rolling it around, getting it to loosen up here. Spend about maybe another 30 seconds here or wherever you're at. Again, picking about 3 spots, cross-bodying forward and back, holding those hot spots 30 to 45 seconds, and then moving that arm through a range of motion for as much as you can tolerate. So that's about as much as I'm going to be able to handle here on my left side. It's actually already starting to feel a little bit better, so I'm super thankful that I'm doing this. So rolling this out a little bit. So we just worked underneath both of our armpits, both worked that big chunk meat right there, the lat. That's what we're going to hear. So that's the back side. So now we want to focus on more of the pec and the front of the shoulder. So the anterior portion of the shoulder complex here. So we're going to take this foam roller and we're going to lay it out 45-degree angle, or move your body or whatever it is. You're going to find a nice little pocket in here between where my shoulder is. There's a big definition from my shoulder into my pec, okay? This top part is my pec minor. This big meaty part of my breast here is my pectorals major here. So we're going to target more of that pec minor, and then on the front of that shoulder. Again, we don't want to get on the bony part of that shoulder. Okay, we can get right there on the front of that shoulder head, that humeral head, if you will, as long as there's some meat in there. But again, we don't want to just jam right there on that bone. So I'm going to turn it at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to lay my body down straight onto the floor, get my arm out. I'm going to start with this one, palm up, okay? And I'm going to basically just rest my head right here on the foam roller and just let my body start to just be aware of, like, I'm going to just rest in and create some downward pressure with gravity right here on the front of that pec, right there on that pec minor, the front of that shoulder. Again, trying to find right in that groove where the shoulder meets the chest. But again, I'm going to work in here for a second. Palm is up. I'm going to flip the palm down now just by doing that right there. Changes it dramatically. Anytime you do a supinated or pronated grip, that's just a fancy word for palm up or palm down. Once I'm in that, now I'm going to start to swim it up. Ooh. I'm going to start to bring it down, whether your hand's on the floor or whether you keep it up. Again, it doesn't matter. It's going to feel very similar to what I did on that lat and in the back. But again, this is part of that tug of war. I've already loosened up the back side, so I need to loosen up the front side so it can move and glide through there a little bit more. So again, I'm rotating from palm up to, as I swim through, to palm down. You can keep your palm down the whole way you swim. You can keep your palm up the whole range of motion you swim. Again, just exploration, maybe doing a little even internal, external, 90-90, just kind of finding that position. Once I do that, instead of going towards my shoulder, I'm going to bring it in a little bit more towards my chest. So I may have to lift my body up on it a little bit more, kind of get in that pec region. Now I'm going to be a little bit further away from my shoulder, a little bit more into that pec. But again, this is going to help with your posture. You may not feel any soreness directly at first. And then again, it's only as much as your body weight can press down on there. So again, you can kind of roll, kind of find that area, and then continue to move that arm in a way that feels comfortable. You're gonna feel the most soreness where it's out there set in real close to that shoulder. But again, working in through the pec, even if you're not feeling an extreme amount of pressure or even pain, that's actually good. We can loosen up that chest. Again, something to mention when you're foam rolling, it doesn't always have to be painful. Even finding a spot or cross-fibering a muscular position to where it doesn't feel super painful is still going to be very beneficial. So again, I'm not feeling as much pain here, which is nice, but I'm still getting a good amount of work in. because I can feel the blood flowing back and forth. I'm releasing that in there. I'm moving things around as I'm kind of pinning that pec minor down and kind of moving through a range of motion. Again, I'm gonna take that third and final spot. Sometimes that 45-degree angle doesn't really work, so I like to take and use the butt of that foam roller and take it in there and get it right up in there. Whoo, there it is, right on that pec. So again, I turn that foam roller out. And again, if you can see here on the floor, I'm using the ridge or the spine of that foam roller. And it's gonna go right there, almost right about nipple level, just maybe the outside of my nipple, closer to my shoulder. Ooh, and I'm gonna use that foam roller, the edge of it. Okay, I'm gonna breathe for a second because this is painful here. I'm gonna breathe right there on the edge. And again, I can roll it down a little bit. I'm more in the pec major here. Okay, so I've kind of moved away from that shoulder, more towards the midline of that pec, right about nipple range in there, closer to your shoulder. But then getting in there, back and forth. If you want to take that arm down below the foam roller, again, moving it over. Oh, that foam roller, setting it down, and then moving it back and setting it down the other side. Again, great action here. Really no wrong to be done in here. You'll feel those kunkunks, those speed bumps. Those are just big, thick, knotty muscle fibers that have been just tightened up from presses and push-ups and all kinds of things. And if this is the first time you've ever foam rolled in the front of this chest, you're in for a real treat. So just get in there, do the best you can. Remember, you're not gonna fix it all at once, but we are gonna start to loosen it up and create some space in there, guys. So moving it back and forth and around. That's probably all I'm going to give it here on this right side. Come up, breathe for a second. Again, just so you can see, I started towards the outside, right, almost inside that shoulder head, moved to the pec minor, and then I used the edge of the foam roller to get in right side of nipple, closer to my shoulder. So I'm going to go to the other side, do the same exact thing. I'm going to start with it at that 45-degree angle, put it closer to my shoulder. Again, not right on my the head of the shoulder, not right on the humeral head. I'm going to get right in here. Kind of find that insertion point. Sometimes I like to just kind of like work my way in to kind of really give it in that groove. Again, much like I did last time, I'm just going to lay on there, let it start to create some space. That foam roller is going to create some separation from that shoulder to that pec, which is very much needed for our posture and shoulder mobility. So I'm going to let it just sit in there for a quick second, and then I'm going to move it around. I'm going to go palm up, much like I started on the other side. This side seems to be a little bit more sensitive for me. And then I'm going to go palm down as I bring it up. Again, notice my range of motion will be very small to start with. As I start to just kind of loosen things up, my range of motion will gain. I'll start to get a little bit more range of motion in that shoulder. Again, whether you do palm up or palm down, we're loosening things up in here through the shoulder. This is also where your bicep tendon lives. There's a little groove in there called the bicipital groove. That's where your bicep tendon likes to sit in that bicipital groove, but sometimes a lot of shoulder pain is mistaken for bicep tendinosis in there. That bicep tendon can get pinched and squeezed in there. So foam rolling the pecs and the shoulders can free that up and probably alleviate a lot of that shoulder pain that you may be feeling and may think it's deep in the joint where it's actually not. So again, I'm at the furthest point out on that shoulder, doing those arm sweeps, moving it. Small little roll is totally fine. Again, in there, I'm avoiding being right on the front of that shoulder. I'm right in that pocket in there, kind of moving things around, high to low, sweeping it. Gonna take it in a little bit, about a quarter turn, put it more in there on that pec minor. Again, I may have to move my body to get up on top of that foam roller a little bit more. And again, that's okay. Again, this one isn't as bad for me in that pec minor. Haven't been doing a lot of chest flies. Typically when you do a lot of chest flies is really when that pec minor fires up in there and you really need a foam roll there. We really haven't been doing that much in class because we don't have two like-size dumbbells or kettlebells that we could do flies with. So not super sore in there, which is a nice relief for me doing this little video. Slide my arm up and back, have good range of motion in there. No problem. Still nice to be able to get some blood flow in there, moving things around. Again, notice my body is sitting a little bit more up on top of this foam roller in there while I'm on that pec minor, as opposed to on the floor where I started. And then as I start to finish this side off, again, I turn the foam roller and I use the edge of the foam roller to go again right inside what would be like my nipple here, starting to get right on that pec in there. So I'm going to put that baby down, be right on top of this. And I am going to feel this here because your pec major is primarily responsible for doing push-ups, presses, and we have been doing a lot of that. So breathing in here, much like I did last time, getting to the point where I'm mentally prepared to be able to move my arm. When I do, I'm going to bring it over that foam roller and set it down. And I'm going to bring it over and back. Back and forth again over that foam roller is painful because I have to lift it up. I have to bring it back. Again, even just laying in here on it is creating some much needed, valuable space for my pec. And taking some deep breaths, starting to loosen that up. Starting to feel pretty good in there for me. Sometimes I like to move my neck around here. You might start even get things loosened up in your neck because you just don't realize the tug of war that was happening between your lat and your pec. Anytime that shoulder girdle starts to loosen up, neck starts to loosen up a little bit here. So too, don't be tight with your neck. Feel free to move that around, moving it over, moving it back, laying down in on it, creating a lot of pressure in there. Again, I'm going to wrap this side up here in the next 20, 30 seconds. Taking some breaths, getting some good pressure, some good relief. Over and back. Finishing out this side, guys, just so you're even. And then I'm going to show you one final move to go right along with what I just did to kind of open up that chest, but then to also work in and get some lower back mobility. So again, we're going to use the foam roller. I'm going to show you from the side. We're going to use the base of this foam roller. It's going to be long here, so it's going to connect with my spine in a vertical fashion. So I'm going to now put my butt on the floor and bring this baby right up to the base of my tailbone. Okay, I'm going to hold it with my thumbs, and I'm going to breathe and ease into this, getting to lay down on it. While I do this, I'm going to open my hips. So now you can see my butt is on the floor. The foam roller is basically up, lining my spine, and I'm going to take my arms out to the floor, which I wouldn't have been able to do until I loosen up my chest by foam rolling the pecs in there, letting my arms out. And now I'm going to work on just controlled breathing and letting my body melt around the foam roller, okay? So I often say squeezing a tennis ball between your shoulder blades back there. That's kind of what I'm focusing on now. I'm kind of squeezing my scapulas together, pinching in, letting my spine just kind of melt onto that foam roller. Most importantly, letting my head rest on that foam roller, letting my butt stay connected to the floor. Again, I'm opening up my hip flexors here. I'm creating some good extension through my low back and spine. My spine is supported. And then I'm also getting this nice chest opener here, where my elbows, my forearms, my hands are extended or on the floor. This is something I want to hold for approximately 2 to 3 minutes, depending on how much you can stay in this one. If this is absolutely not working for you and you just can't get your back up onto this foam roller and still keeping your hips on the floor, something I want you to work for, but you can just bring your tailbone up onto there so where you're in line with there, your whole back is supported. Even now my tailbone, still working that chest opener. It just might be too intense for you at first on that lower back. It's just kind of a great one to open up everything on the front side. If you are going to put your tailbone up on here, I highly suggest you get your legs as long as possible. That way your hips fall down and starts to open up these hip flexors. Again, just stretching everything out on this front side. You're connecting your whole spine with the foam roller, everything from your head all the way through your spine, down through your tailbone, whether your butt's on the floor or up on here. Again, nice big chest opener, big hip flexor opener here too. Everything's dumping down into the floor. Now I'm again just basically working on my breathing, melting into this foam roller. Nice place to maybe even take a quick cat nap here, little snoozer, holding it for 2 or 3 minutes. If you can hold it for longer than that, you'll get some much more needed benefits from there. Other than that, guys, when you do come up off here, peel yourself off or maybe just roll yourself to the side, because anytime you start to open and lengthen your body into a position that is unnatural for your body, it's almost as hard as working out, and you feel like you have to almost like lift your body back into that normal position. Other than that, guys, those are some great moves. from working the spine over and back, doing those sit-ups, working those lats, working those pecs, and then finally that last one, that nice big chest opener there. Guys, that's where we're gonna wrap up today. So if you haven't tried the lower half, go try it. If you're just getting started with this upper half, let me know, give me some feedback how it goes. Again, if you need any recommendations on a foam roller, let me know. Again, it's your boy, the Fitness Papi, Foam Roller Edition #2, E-Wall is out.